Good to see everybody. I'm glad you've got the slides up and running, and I have a confession to make already. I'm not going to use the slides. So at 4 p.m., my confession is at 4 p.m. today, in between meetings, I took a look at my corporate deck and I decided to throw it all away. You're very welcome to read through it at any point in time. If you've got a copy, share it, I don't mind. But I decided that you guys at the best university in Singapore deserve the true story, not a corporate deck. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Right, let's do something a little bit different then. Stand up. Okay. Stay standing if you're here because you're interested in a career in fintech. So sit down if you're not considering a career in fintech. All right. You can sit if you're not considering. Okay, then stay. Next one. Stay standing if you're interested in winning all that money in the hackathon that's coming up. Right. Now I got to the bare bones. We can all sit down. I'm going to tell you about my career in fintech, and it has been a series of mistakes, accidents, and the best decisions of my life because they brought me here to running a region for Ripple, blockchain-based organization, changing the world, based here in Singapore. I live here, I've been here for 3 years now, and every day is such an adventure. And we've talked about, we just started with interested in career in fintech. I take it, I'm going to stereotype a little bit here. I'm going to share my own stereotypes, actually. I have an Asian mother. Do you know what that means in terms of stereotype, in terms of career expectation? Or do you do, I'm seeing some nodding here. Does that whole societal or parental pressure intrude for anybody else here? You can nod, you don't have to share anything. If it sounds like something familiar to you, right? So my mother is Chinese. I'm from Hong Kong. My mother is Chinese. I am by nature quite academic. So I went to Oxford University. I studied politics, philosophy, and economics. And I grew up in Hong Kong. The first societal pressure that I encountered around my chosen degree was the host of aunties saying to my mother, Silla, I thought you said your daughter was quite smart. Why isn't she studying law or medicine or finance? What is PPE? Like physical education, something like that. So that was the first interaction that I had with that societal pressure. But my parents, very liberal. She got into Oxford, everything's fine. She's going to choose a stellar career. Guess how many? You can probably tell I'm not again. I told you I'm from Hong Kong, clearly not from Singapore with my accent. PPE is the degree of prime ministers in the UK, where I studied. Can't be too bad. So what does Fiona go and do when she graduates from PPE at Oxford? I chose a career in sales. That's a terrible idea. Who chooses a career in sales after a degree from an academic institution? You don't need a degree to go into sales, to go into a lot of business. So again, cue the pressure or I wouldn't say too much pressure. I'll say the concern and the whispers from all the aunties in Hong Kong. Ooh, all her colleagues don't have degrees. Sales, it was a dirty word. And I chose the book. I was lucky enough to get an opportunity with a software company right out of university. And I joined their graduate sales program where I was cold calling every day, cold calling banks to sell them financial services software. So very, very different from writing a thesis, sitting exams, falling asleep in class, all a very different approach. And from that point, I then built up my career. I worked with several software companies. I worked with regulated financial institutions throughout that career in tech. I ended up in a wonderful team, actually, at a company called Oracle. Has anyone heard of Oracle? Right. So my mom was happy again. My daughter works for Oracle. It's a brand that people have heard of. How many fintechs would your parents have heard of? Compared to an Oracle or an IBM or a DBS, right? That's the difference here. So you're all here moving against societal pressure and parental pressure, and good for you. It takes a very different mindset to go against the grain and to build something meaningful for yourself. And you only do so by pushing yourself and going after what's interesting. So I was at Oracle, all was good. I was working in the key accounts division at Oracle, managing the largest revenue generating clients for us in the UK, based in Moorgate, in the Square Mile in London, right in the center, right around the corner from the Bank of England, having a great time. Steady career, several promotions, all was going well, all very predictable. Again, Asian parent, very happy. Then I got a call to say, you have to go and meet a man called John Mitchell, the global head of sales at a company called Ripple. And this is a headhunter who I have known for many years. And I said to her, Daryl, I don't know who they are. Who are they? Oh, they're fintech. This is 5 years ago. Oh, just over 5 years ago. Fintech, right. Like a neobank or a digital platform. Yeah, I see everyone working for a bank is rushing out the door to join one of those. But my career is going very well here. I make decent money. I'm going to get promoted every 2 years, and I'm going to know what the future holds for me. Come on in. And she said, please just go and meet them, or just do a little bit of research. So I typed in Ripple into Google, and the first thing that came back was Ripple XRP cryptocurrency. And I thought, is this recorded? Yeah. I thought, I won't swear then. I thought, wow, cryptocurrency. Daryl's lost her mind. I have a steady career in a well-respected listed company. I'm on a path to go into middle management very soon. My ideal is to move into senior management, really where I was already working with CIOs of FTSE 50 companies, right? That's what we did every day. So all great. And you want me to go and talk to some guy who works for a cryptocurrency company selling drugs? Is that what they do? No, obviously not. I was naive. What I found actually was Ripple was extremely bold, something that you get in fintech. When you're in a room full of people who are pushing against the grain, extremely bold, with the grand vision of the internet of value. And I met John, and it changed my life. The internet of value. What does that mean? What is the internet to each of us? It's what everything runs on. Now, I don't know how many people here remember a time before the internet. I'll admit, for myself, I remember all the dial-up tones and things like that, the beginning of our common use of the internet. And I can't really remember life before it. I'm too young. Let's go with that story. I'm too young. But really it changed the way we do everything. I'm on the internet now. I think I'm being recorded. That's being stored probably on the internet. You can share it across the world in real time. We can communicate with each other. I was checking on Grab on my way over that I was tracking the map in real time over the internet. I am perpetually lost. So I really always use Google Maps to find my way. I can't live anymore without being on the internet. And not long ago, no one could fathom what that would do to change our lives. Talk to your parents and your grandparents about how they used to date. Oh my God, life was different, right? So the internet has changed changed the way that we live in ways that we could not have imagined. Now, what Ripple is doing, this mission, this vision, the internet of value, is taking that same concept changing the way that we interact. Moving value, not just money, the word is value, as easily as we move information today. Think about value exchanges. It's salaries, it's how you pay rent, it's lending money, it's involved in insurance, it's something like artwork or gold or jewelry. And think about how easy it is to transmit that, not just transmit, but I don't even have the word to talk about what the potential in the future is. Because I don't know how the world is going to change, but I do know that, and I found out, this is the pitch that I got when I met John Mitchell. I found out that Ripple had this bold idea of building the internet of value. And what that started with was blockchain technology. Blockchain technology and a real use case of payments. We've been talking about blockchain. Blockchain as a concept has existed for a while. Everyone's heard of Bitcoin. It's on the blockchain. A fantastic example of a huge amount of energy and consumption going into something that isn't even really a store of value, not one that stayed stable anyway, right? So what is Ripple doing? It's taking blockchain technology, and what it decided to do was build up, I say everything, say slowly is not the right word, in steps, in phases, payments network. So firstly, using blockchain technology in a payment messaging layer, and it's been bold at every step of the way. So the first thing Ripple does is build a payments network going up against, has anyone heard of a company called Swift? An organization called Swift? It's okay if you have. Swift is the backbone of standard payments technology. So if you are sending money through your bank to somebody, always send it to me in the UK. I will always accept your money in whatever currency. I've never said no. If you're sending money to a friend in China, if you're sending money to a friend in the UK, if you're paying a bill for an online course that you've signed up somewhere else, usually what happens is that those funds, you go to your bank, say, I'd like to send 100 Singapore. That message, that payment message is sent over an organization called Swift, which has over 10,000 banks in the world using that messaging standard and technology. It's part owned by all of these banks. So Ripple, some nobody organization with some blockchain, no one knew what blockchain was at the time, said, right, you see what Swift is doing over there? We're going to do it better. We're going to do it better and faster for low value payments. We know the world is big, there's space for a lot of different players. We're going to do it for low value, high volume payments. Because if you're sending $100 today and it costs you $20 to $25 to send that money, that's not good value as an individual consumer. If you are a migrant worker here in Singapore from Bangladesh, or India, or the Philippines, and your salary every month is $700. And every time you get it, you're charged $25 to send your salary back to your family so that they can pay for their education, their bills, their food. Does that sound like good value? We're not talking about large trade finance transactions where a few points of a percentage point are acceptable for large business. We're talking about individuals, low value, high volume payments, that high volume meaning they happen regularly, that nobody cares about, nobody is servicing. Swift don't care. The bank does not care how poor value they're providing. And that actually extends out to SMEs as well. So small, medium enterprises who are sending $20,000 a time to pay, could be a few $1,000s a time to pay for small invoices. You know, if I import bags of potato chips to service my diaspora community, I'm still paying the same amount of money. And on top of that, do you know how it works? I send a payment. I don't know exactly when that payment will arrive. So if I send it on Thursday or Friday and there's a time zone difference where I'm sending it, does it get there Friday? Does it get there Monday? Does it get there Tuesday? What if I miss a payment and there's interest on it? What if I no longer get my goods? The other scenario is my bank doesn't have a direct relationship with the bank that I'm sending the payments to. So it uses the correspondent banking network, which means my bank has a bank. They might also have a bank who has a bank, and this can go on for chains of in the 10s, 20s sometimes. You know, you're talking about getting a payment to a random, yeah, you forget it being recorded. And we can look. I know it's not your fault. Well, stop looking over you at you about this recording. But you know, you could have chains of banks that are involved in that process. Who does anything for free? No one. So I needed to send 100. I needed 100 US dollars to be received in Thailand. Did my 100 US dollars get there in the equivalent in Thai baht? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe every bank took a cut along the way. And again, that represents not only poor value, but a poor experience. And those who are impacted the most or the worst are those at the lower end of the spectrum. So Ripple cares about the Internet of Value, and we care about that in terms of financial inclusion. But what we started to build was real network using blockchain technology and the concepts that are inherent in it: transparency, immutability. We used the synchronization of ledgers. So if I say, I'm going to send you $20, and you say, okay, this is the quote, I accept that. Once that quote is locked, at the very same time, we both update our ledgers to represent that clearance of the payment. That's not what happens out there, outside of the Ripple network necessarily. So that's blockchain concepts we've taken into this payment messaging system. The next really big audacious idea was explained to me was, once we have that payment messaging, real-time payment messaging system, we're kicking out SWIFT, out all these real-time, low-value, high-volume payments. We're going to use cryptocurrency to do it. We're going to use XRP, a digital asset specifically created to move very quickly and recognize transactions super, super fast. Not the same problems that you have with Bitcoin taking forever to recognize a payment's been made. We're talking milliseconds to recognize that, and scalable to recognize those transactions. Why are we going to do that? Because it's not good enough to clear payments in real time, to have that payment messaging, that synchronized, all very good things. But how do the world's payments move today? Generally through the US dollar. So I described that correspondent banking network. To get into Thailand from Singapore, sometimes you just Singapore dollar to Thai baht, sometimes Singapore dollar to US dollar to Thai baht. So you need a US dollar correspondent bank in that journey. And you need to be able to settle those funds at the same time. So what does Ripple do? It brings XRP, a digital asset, into the equation. It says, not only can you clear payments in real time, you'll be able to, this is at the time that it was being pitched to me because it was early days. We do this now around the world in real time. Use XRP as a bridge currency within the payment flow. And you never need to hold reserves in a foreign currency. So if you're a business, I'm just going to use a remittance company in Lucky Plaza that commonly services migrant workers, sending funds, their salary, back to their families in the Philippines. You know, maybe they walk in every week and send it. Sometimes it's quite a common occurrence on a Sunday, see queues outside, right? So if you're an organization enabling these Filipinos to send their funds home, you generally need to have a bank account in the Philippines with Filipino pesos there in reserve. Otherwise, you can't pay them out, right? So that's not scalable for an individual organization to do that for the Philippines, for Bangladeshi taka, for Thai baht, for on and on and on, because they need to hold reserves in each of those countries. And not every currency is stable. So if there's big volatility in that currency, that impacts the organization, that remittance company's bottom line. So what does Ripple do? What's Ripple's answer to that? And we were waiting for this moment. We were waiting for, oh, actually, I say we were waiting. We were actively pushing on governments and regulators with a big policy team flying around the world, every regulator that we could think of, including MAS, to educate them on what we're doing, what our vision of the Internet of Value is. And so we waited until a point in time that there was adoption, and we brought that into the payment flow. So now, with many of the organizations that we work with, including those in Lucky Plaza, they don't have to hold reserves in Filipino pesos. They buy XRP. So the customer walks in to the remittance shop. They say, I want to send 100 Singapore dollars into the Philippines. No problem. That organization submits an order. It's all digital and integrated. That says 100 Singapore dollars to Filipino pesos. This is the quote that comes back. I can't remember what the exchange rate is right now. X amount of Filipino pesos. Customers right in front of them. Do you want to send at this rate? Yes. Okay. Click a button. They buy XRP from Ripple. At that point in time, immediately that is liquidated in the Philippines, sold in exchange for Filipino pesos, and down local rails through a local partner of ours in the Philippines is distributed into the bank account, mobile wallet, or cash kiosk in the Philippines. That whole process takes less than 2 minutes. With verification, with the quote being locked, with the buying and selling of XRP to fund that flow, and with that payment being cleared in real time. That's the change that we've made to the world. And it was that idea 5 years ago was insane. Insane. Because cryptocurrency at that point in time was Bitcoin. And the only discussion about it was to buy drugs from criminals. Actually, it's a lot harder to conduct illegal activity with cryptocurrencies as it's turning out, because you can trace them. So guess what's untraceable? Cold hard cash. And we're back in this world again, where that was the bold starting point. But what Ripple did was break it down into concepts, technologies, and a process that could digest it bit by bit. Once we had this global network on fiat, using that blockchain-based technology for payment messaging, it's really easy for us to bring in XRP into that payment flow. So what's next? So I was talking about my career here. So I said, all right, I'll join you. And I left Oracle. Well, I spoke to my Chinese mother first, actually. Spoke to my Chinese mother. Mom, I was in Hong Kong over Christmas, which I remember. I had an interview at 2 a.m. And I said, I think I'm going to take this offer that I have in sales in London. And my mother called her Buddhist Sifu, said, Sifu, my daughter's talking about leaving Oracle to go to a cryptocurrency company. And it was there was a lot of back and forth and debate. And again, you can see there's a pattern with my career choice of my family. But it was accepted. It was all agreed in the end. Even our Sifu said, maybe it's not such a good idea to join something nobody has heard of with digital fake money. The world has changed in the last 5 years. Not only think about what a cryptocurrency is, it's a digital asset. Not only are individuals using cryptocurrency for exchange and stores of value, they've moved into the NFT space, but also governments. What is CBDC? Central Bank Digital Currency. You heard of the e-renminbi? Ripple as an organization has taken the same technology, that XRP ledger that we've built everything else on, and we're taking that to governments and central banks. We're working in Bhutan right now with the Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan, the central bank there, on building a digital neutral. That's their currency, a fully digital currency, backed by the central bank that they have control over. Why would they give up monetary and fiscal policy? They don't need to. Same technology. changes the world, changes the way they can interact with the rest of the world, particularly for small countries that are often battered by changes around them and fluctuations in things like the US dollar and their access to the US dollar. We're working in Palau right now, similar idea. Palau uses the US dollar as their domestic currency. They don't have their own. What is the government there looking at doing? Looking at using the XRP ledger and our CBDC innovation platform from Ripple to potentially launch a US dollar-backed stablecoin. Game-changing. Governments, central banks, not just an idea in somebody's head. And the vision, once again, is not just limited to how does one organization make money. It's how do we make these chains, these networks interoperable so that more people can benefit. I'm sure many of you have heard of the idea of network effects. So when you're looking at a network, every time another organization or individual or node, whatever it might be, joins that network, it has benefit to everybody else and becomes more beneficial to the next person to join because there are more interactions between them. What happens when you make one network interoperable with another? Value exponentially increases as you do that. So that's what we're going after. And it started with one very bold idea going against the grain. Real-time payments network, low value, high volume payments. You add to it using XRP digital assets in that payment flow, freeing up all of that capital that would otherwise be locked up in Thailand, in Bangladesh, in Vietnam. That's money that you can't use as an organization to expand. What's next for us? Working with governments, with central banks, and now packaging up some of those tools that we've built within our network itself for others to use. So crypto liquidity sourcing is the next thing that we're looking at. And it all starts again with that bold idea and working in a way that allows people to be on that journey with you. Because when I started, I was working only with banks in Europe. Can you imagine walking into a bank anywhere, walking into DBS 5 years ago and saying, want to use cryptocurrency in your payment flow for all your customers? So we did it step by step. And now we have partnerships with regulated financial institutions, including banks all over the world. That's the story of me and my Asian mother. Do we have any questions about how we got there? I'm not doing your hackathon for you.
How do people make money?
Great question. Two main ways. We have significant holdings in XRP, and all of this is public information. And we have a pool of that XRP and we sell it. So we have a markets report that goes out. You can see based on the last quarter how much money we've made out of the XRP that we've sold. It's used in the payment flow as well within our payments network. So there is a cost to using XRP for consumers. And secondly, we charge for our services within the network. The network itself is built on open source technology, so that if Ripple as a company went under, the network would still exist. However, we need to fund ourselves and our services, and we believe that when you pay for something, you use it better, and we are accountable to our clients as well. So we have service fees for those who use the network, like the remittance companies. Anyone on Zoom?
In remittances, we are like the goal is to use XRP as the unit of payment, is it?
As the mode of settlement.
Oh, okay. Like, but it will still be transacting in native cash.
I talked about that company in Lucky Plaza sending to the Philippines. They actually pay Ripple back for that payment in Singapore dollars.
Oh, okay.
So they can provide that FX service, let's say, to the client that walks in the door. But they don't have the same exposure. They are paying us back in Singapore dollars, which is what they receive. So that solves a lot of problems.
Ripple back to the US dollar.
So there's two parts when we talk about Ripple, there's really two aspects. The first is Ripple, the company, that's where I sit. Somebody pays my salary, that's the organization. And within that, there's Ripple Net, which is the payments network, the real-time payments network, as well as the technology and the research and development we do on that. Completely separate to that is XRP that exists with or without us, but we have a lot of it.
So XRP, how do you like start its initial value and how do you prevent?
Well, it wasn't worth very much to begin with, and we don't control the fluctuation because it's traded on the market and it's the market that determines the rate. But within the payment flows, we make guarantees around, you're only touching it for a second in the payment flow. So that already minimizes any risk or any exposure to the volatility, but we also have guarantees around that if you're using our payment network.
So you can't actually buy, like you can't buy it, like you can't own.
No, you absolutely can own XRP. Yeah, absolutely.
But then how is it immune from the problems of Bitcoin?
It is an entirely different technology. So it's not built off, you don't have to mine it. There's a finite number. In fact, every time there's a transaction, it burns some of the XRP as well. So it's an entirely different type of technology. The similarities are it's a digital asset.
Well, there's a question here on Zoom. How was it like building a sales team trying to sell something like Ripple 5 years ago?
It was every day, actually, every day at Ripple was exciting. Every year is totally different. The question about building a sales team 5 years ago, forget building a sales team. How do we build a network? So we remember, what's the value of a network? The value of a network is having somebody else to communicate with or connect to. When we started, there was nobody. So you're walking into a bank saying you can use my payments network. Who do you connect to? It's like a fax machine or a mobile phone. What's the point in any of these things? Actually, a mobile is a bad example. I can use it to do everything. But a traditional phone, what's the point in it unless I can call somebody else? But the question on building a team, what we look for is individuals who are excited about the potential in the future. So if somebody comes in and they say, oh, I just want great insurance and healthcare coverage, or I heard you have free snacks. We have great snacks. I generally don't hire them. That's the reality, because we need pioneers, those who are going to go against the grain, who want to build something. How many organizations out there are changing the way that we interact with something so fundamental with value? So if you come in and you're saying, I just want free snacks, this is not the right organization for you. So the answer to that question of building a sales team is it's really hard. You've got to go out, hunt deep and wide, share that vision. And if someone's excited by that same story, the one I shared, changing the way we interact with value, then we have another conversation.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, Ripple and its effect on, say, the emerging economies in some of the countries. Like with respect to, say, banks and the main financial institutions, like let's say they want to come back and get back a piece of the pie, so like they come with their own local, their own ledgers and network. What's like Ripple's way to navigate against that?
We welcome it, actually. So we believe in many chains, in many networks. What we really care about is interoperability between them. So we offer the XRP ledger, that underlying technology that others are able to build their own digital assets on, their own smart contracts on, their own NFTs on, and that's public source technology. We want that interoperability to happen. If there was another payments network, or probably more likely is a complementary network or service, if they wanted to integrate the payments network or whatever else the future holds, we really welcome that, because you can really start to think about, again, that idea of adding value quickly to more players in ways we didn't think about at the beginning. What if you started to add insurance into the payment flow? We don't do that. Does somebody want to offer a service that could link into that? What about compliance as a service? What about lending? There are so many variations, and this is all just sticking with financial services, or with a very narrow set, because we're talking about my imagination. So we actually believe and encourage both interoperability and others to use and build the same kind of technology. We're not protected.
Yeah, kind of answers back here. Yeah, it's just something. So we see this financial institutions, they have really great resources, right? A lot of experience in building up from the ground up, the way traditional. So they want to start like the own version of XRP, the own version of their own. They want to get in on the profits. Is that something that's within the ecosystem as well?
We don't worry. So if someone wants to use our technology to build that, fantastic. Everyone benefits when actually everyone benefits from improvements to the XRP ledger, which happen when more people use it. That's fantastic. If someone wants to build a competing payments network, good luck to them. It was very difficult to do. We have hundreds of institutions on the network worldwide, so we have a very good head start. I love competition because it sharpens the mind, but it's hard to be the second mover here, because it takes a long time to build that critical mass up. And the other component of it is Ripple has $1 billion in the bank. And public information through the sale of XRP. It's hard to beat. So you're talking about an organization with very deep pockets, specifically going against Ripple, rather than building something where they have a competitive advantage that we would welcome. We like people playing in a space that is underserved. And if that's us, then see what the future holds.
Can I just check, given that Ripple generally focuses on financial institution, so there's given the bear market now, I think Ripple doesn't have the negative effects of Ripple is less. Really?
The negative effects.
Yeah, because like now the cryptocurrency is in the bear market. Given that Ripple is focused on financial institutions, I think the impact on Ripple is greater than anticipated, or is it?
So that we talk a lot about the economic environment that we're in now, and so firstly, the volatility of XRP, the digital currency, does not impact the way that payments flow across the network. So we've still been signing up a new financial institution to the network maybe two every week, so every 2 to 3 working days. That's the rate of onboarding. They haven't seen that slow down. The interest is still very high, actually. And again, that payment is isolated from any volatility in the price of digital assets. So not worried there. The economic environment is something that we look at, though. So it impacts things like hiring. Last year, Ripple hired over 350 people alone, 1 year, when the industry was making layoffs, and it's an interesting time for us because we still have a lot of unfinished business. So we're still growing and working. It doesn't, your question around working with financial institutions, we're actually branching out. So we're looking at opening up to corporate customers, not only regulated financial institutions, but the organizations they serve, which is a different kind of move. And that's another huge growth area. So that's the world we're into. So yeah, very interesting perspective on the economy.
I have a question. So just now you talked a lot about the about adoption of Ripple and also like the network effect, right? So, and I think without like there's a lot of institutions that have already been adopting like the Ripple system. But in your opinion, like is there like a milestone for, I guess, the company that where you can say for sure like, okay, our like the XRP or like the Ripple has achieved like mass adoption?
So it's a great question. How do we measure ourselves in success? And for me, and it's different different for different people, but for me, a major milestone in the, and I remember what I was talking about. So we started with fiat, blockchain payment messaging, added crypto later to that. For me, a major milestone was when we were processing $1 billion a month in flow over XRP for payments, because that did not happen overnight. And I wouldn't say we've reached sort of saturation either. There's anybody who transfers value is a potential for the network to grow into. Right now, as where we are sitting today, we've only signed up low value, high volume payment organizations. And that's changing this year. So work is never finished.
You said that the goal is financial organization. How about individuals? I don't want to consider allowing individuals to use the platform to explore money.
Not right now. So we are a B2B organization. We're like that on purpose. We do some advertising and marketing to raise our brand awareness, like Intel. You know, you've seen all the Intel ads and the stickers, and probably hear the jingle in your head. They don't market, they don't sell to consumers. You can't just go and buy an Intel chip. But that's how you can think of Ripple. We're the backbones, the infrastructure, changing the way that organizations that you use share and transmit value. Maybe one, I never say never to anything, but we've got our hands full right now.
One question. So how is the reception towards Ripple in the impact region compared to other regions?
Great. I'm here and I love it. And the reason I moved here, talking about career and how things go unexpectedly, I moved out here to run APAC. It started with a very, very, very small team. My team is 7 people now, and that's just in sales and APAC. This region, Asia Pacific, represents over 40% of crypto activity globally. This region, so we're used to thinking of ourselves as small, right? Singapore's small, and Hong Kong's small, 7 million people. We have a really outsized impact on the future of finance, of digital assets, and we can really shape it. So it's all happening here. All of the creativity and the innovation. We work with companies like FOMO based here in Singapore. I don't know if anyone, you're smiling there. How cool are they? They started in the luxury car business, enabling payments. All these crypto billionaires. You see, you're nodding like you really know them well.
Oh, no.
They're crazy cool and they're based here in Singapore. There's a lot of money, a lot of activity, a lot of interest, a lot of creativity. You can walk into a 7-Eleven. So they started in luxury cars. You could pay for a car in cryptocurrency. What if you could go and walk into a 7-Eleven and pay in the same mode? That's what they're doing, bridging those gaps between luxury and normal people like us. So it's cool, and it's all here. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Of course,
That I have known some people major in PPE from America, and they are somehow I think they wish to apply a high position, like get a high position in consulting business, or prime minister, something like that. So why
I should have done that.
so why do you choose to work from sell as your entry level to begin the journey?
You've been talking to my mother. No, it's I genuinely believe that there is no path in your career that's wrong, as long as you're challenging yourself and there's something that you find interesting. I hated cold calling. It was so uncomfortable. Picking up the phone to somebody you've never met, who doesn't know who you are, and I would shake every time. Think, hi, I'm Fiona. I tell you about my solution. So you change and you adapt very quickly. That didn't work for me, right? Nobody wanted to have a meeting with my sales director. That's how I started the phone call. So you start to think, well, what's the value here? You have to believe what you're doing as well, right? You have to believe that the technology that you're selling will make a positive difference to the person you're speaking to, you're calling. And it got me close to business and value. Value is what I always come back to very quickly. And there aren't that many. You can absolutely, this is being recorded, but you can absolutely go into consulting. There's nothing wrong with that. And you're right, many of my peers went straight into McKinsey, Bain, BCG, immediately out of university. Guess how many calls I get from them every year about wanting to join Ripple? The different routes, and one that I really value, because I got to the crux of value at the very start of my career. Why would somebody spend money? Nothing closer to business than that. It's survival of your organization. If you don't have funds coming in, you can't expand, you can't even survive as an organization. That's why I chose sales.
How about
Investment?
Yeah.
What? Spending somebody else's money?
Yeah, something like that.
It wasn't for me.
There's a question here on Zoom. It's a follow-up question. So you mentioned about the question to think about was really building a network from scratch. Can you share more about the process and maybe give an example of a particularly challenging sales situation you've encountered, how you would?
Oh, really being job interviewed. Building a network from scratch. When you're starting, and this is the same across a lot of startups, you have to have a strong vision. And you have to believe it. And you have to be very prepared to be knocked back and to adapt and to change that. Because believe me, we were knocked back a lot. And you know, that idea of starting with bite-sized pieces of value, that didn't come out of someone's brain one moment, and the next moment we had hundreds of institutions on the network. It came through a lot of conversations, a lot of buying people coffees, or actually, you know, just begging for people's time and thoughts on the topic of where is their value. But that's where you focus when you're starting at the beginning. You focus on value, not what's going to make me money, what's going to make your life better. Start there and build that story out. So how am I going to do that? How quickly are you going to see that impact? Who else is going to be impacted? Do you want to bring them into the conversation? Can we build that together? And very soon, you don't just have an idea, you have a community of individuals or organizations who are building that with you. That's how you do it. And it can't be, how do I make money out of you? It's how do I bring value to you? Every time I think we're done, there's another question. So.
Do you have any advice for students like us who wish to have a career in fintech?
I mean, this is a fantastic start. I think I saw some of the list of speakers you have. Ask us the questions you care about. Ask people what they find interesting, because it's too easy to live your life chasing something. I told you all about my family, chasing something your aunties want you to do. But what's really enjoyable is finding out what you care about. For me, it was chasing that value, finding out exactly what provides value to someone. You do that through sales all the time. And I love the chase, and I love to close deals, and I love negotiation. I didn't know any of that at the start. What do you know when you leave university, you're like, oh, I love negotiation. How do you know that? But what are the things that you enjoy? And I loved talking to people and hearing about different ideas. That's what I did through my academic experience. And sales extends all of that. You're talking to people all the time, learning from them. And again, the main thing that has focused my career is building value. So talk to everybody who's coming through the doors here. Fantastic list of people you've got and access. Don't give them an easy time. Don't let them stand up there and give you corporate slide decks. It's because they turn that on and say, well, what do you care about? Because that's where you get to the real side of the story. And look me up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, kind of generic, but what do you say, like some of the main challenges we currently face or foresee for the space within, say, crypto and payments in maybe the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, there's no doubt that we are going through a hard time as a segment right now. A lot of, Coinbase announced 50% cut to profits this year. That a lot of life goes through cycles, and we're still an emerging segment actually. So particularly the early days of any industry, any market segment goes through a lot of volatility, and we're going through that now. So I think what we'll see is a lot of the organizations that don't provide clear, solid value will fall by the wayside, and they'll probably be a smaller number of those that grow and take the rest of the market share. That's my expectation. And we've seen this happen in many other market segments. So not everyone who was there this time last year will survive to the end of the year. But that's a good thing. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. I had my great therapy session, getting everything off my chest about my history and my family, but really appreciate seeing all of you and spending the time together.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, very cool. Thank you.